Hi guys, it's Blackie. Okay, we're going to continue with the 10 C's of Dave Canterbury. Many of you are liking this series and I'm very grateful for that. And so we're going to move on to one now that's a biggie. Cutting tool. I've had a lot of people asking about this one. When are you going to get to the cutting tool? Well, here we go. Now, like many other parts of this list, the cutting tool applies to more than what is immediately obvious. Because the first thing you think of when you think cutting tool is the knife. You know, what knife are you running? What knife are you carrying in the field? Well, it's beyond that. Cutting tool also implies to any kind of object you're using to perform your bushcraft, cooking, food prepare, etc. Skinning, specialty tools, harvesting of wood, firewood tools. Now let's look at Nesmonk. Nesmonk, who's kind of like the grandfather of much of this hobby, and his works are kind of like the basis that brought together, maybe not been the only source, but they were a source that kind of laid the foundation of so many other later books and things on woodscraft and bushcraft. And what they talk about is he has 3 cutting tools, and he has pocket knives. Let's start with the smallest. I am a bit of a pocket knife junkie. I have this box full of pocket knives, and I have carried every one of them in here. From the old military issue type of Boy Scout type, that's a military issue, to actual Barlows, old timers, old sabers, the 2 and 3 blade stockmans, and the 2 blade trappers. That's one of my favorites because of what the blades do. But what we're speaking of when we're talking about the small blade, okay? This is the small detail blade. And the usage of this knife has changed over time. When I was a small young man, a lot of the old men often had 1 or 2 pocket knives. There was one pocket knife that was the super cheap one. That was, I believe I had one right here. Yeah, this is one of those cheap dollar store Barlows that in my day was probably a buck, buck and a half. Okay? It was a piece of carbon steel and was used as the grubbing tool. It was used for scraping the wire. It was used for getting rust off of the boat hitch, whatever. If you had to possibly damage a tool, that was it. On the other end of that was the old timer, the case or whatever, that was kept like a razor blade, and that was only used where I needed a precision sharp tool. And so those 2 cutting tools would be carried on them for use. And I have watched my grandfather several times taking a granddaddy Barlow like that, cleaning game, cleaning hog, cleaning chicken, cleaning whatever needed to be doing, carving, whittling, making whatever. It's the size of a knife when you open it up, but it was a folding knife. And the skill he had with that knife as a daily tool, that was the knife that they predominantly used. So when we look in bushcraft, woodscraft, the small knife has a distinct place. Now we're going to get to the belt knives and etc. But let's start on the bottom end right now. What I carry on me, and I've said this many times in my videos, is I carry a Swiss Army knife. I carry the Field Master, is what I carry, is an EDC, no matter what, knife. And that is all the tools on it, is the greatest use to me. Then the next step up becomes the belt knife. We'll get to that in a minute. Why do I have this big old box of blades? Because like you, I enjoy nostalgia, and I enjoy trying new designs and styles as they come out. So in the T&Cs, part of that, the cutting tool, is also a little bit of exploration of finding what your knife needs to be, your niche, because each one of us has separate needs. For example, where I'm at down here, I'm able to use a Swiss Army knife for most of the stuff. For a lot of my life, I carried a Barlow in my pocket. That was the knife I carried. My first pocket knife was a Barlow, and I could do many things with it. Later on, I shifted up to a larger lock blade, a K-Bar 1607. The two-blade trapper was one of my favorite hunting pocket knives because of the blade that's for skinning. So I could clean game with this. So it was a point knife for detail work and a skinning blade for actually taking fur-bearing animals, processing game, because I did a lot of that as a young hunter. So for my needs, such a pocket knife was useful. Now, you may not need any such thing. You're not doing hunting or fishing, and you're doing bushcraft, and so you need a small blade of some kind. Well, many of you use multi-tools, and the multi-tool knife blades. It's kind of an awkward tool to me, but I wasn't raised with it, and yet I know several young men, and I say young men up to their 30s, that they carry some sort of multi-tool. Well, that is their small blade, okay, to do small work. And in Nesmunk, he had a two-blade trapper type for skinning and processing small detail. So that niche is covered in that, see. Now, stepping away from the small blade, we're going to step up. Now we're into the WOODSCRAFT bushcraft knife. And what I carry is a WC Knives Blackbird, made by William Collins. The sheath I carry it in is a StitchGear.com Blackbird sheath, which is a 6-position sheath. With these two, I'm covered in my basic field use, okay? Which means, with this blade I can process light firewood, make feather sticks, do all of those crafty things, bushcrafty things, woodscrafty things I can easily do with this knife. Building fires, carving dingle sticks and toggles, processing meat, cutting up dinner, processing vegetables, all of the above. This is a one tool, and if I was left with nothing else, I would easily survive with just this one knife. Even if I didn't have a pocket knife, I would be able to use this belt knife. But now here's the next big thing, skill level. See, I've got 45 years of skill level. 50 really for the small pocket knives. But of a belt knife, I've got 40-something, 45 years of skill level. So for me, this perfectly dials in. Would this be the perfect knife for you? Maybe, maybe not, because of your skill level and what your environment is and what the jobs and duties you're doing. How about one of those Condor pterosaurs that everybody's raving about? I know several people that I respect that carry those. They really like it because of the angle of the blade. Or one of the Moras, or any of a dozen other knives. It doesn't have to be high dollar. Is it a good blade, and do you have the skills to really enjoy that blade, to really bring that blade out? See, in Nesmunk, he had a little bit of a humpback knife that I know they'll give you all kinds of things, but I swear, you know, I've made a couple of these knives. And I took a broken buffalo skinner, which is a big skinning knife, is what it is, and put a handle on it, cut the blade short, and you have that hump in the back of it. And what Nesmunk was doing with that hump on the back, you turn the knife around backwards, and it's great for cooking. You can use it almost like a spatula into a small skillet and things like that. So he was very multitasking. The small blade was the precision blade. He would have processed small game, stuff like that, where he needed a super sharp blade, would have been done with his very small blade. And then the belt knife did the larger tasks. The whittling, the carving, stuff like that. That's where that knife came in. Now, in this knife, it does not have to be such a large knife. Maybe you prefer something a little bit smaller, like this WC NK. That would be, this is an excellent crafting knife. It's smaller. It can do most of the jobs that the larger knives do easily, but at the same time, it's more like this, more up close. And if what you're trying to accomplish, this may be more controllable, and more in line with what you're trying to do. Or, now how about if you're a hunter and you're trying to focus on game processing? Well, then a specialty knife may be more in your thing. Not a bushcraft knife, but a specialty knife. You're not doing the carving fuzzy sticks. You're not carving dangle sticks. You're coming out to enjoy the woods, and you do real light bushcraft. But you're predominantly a hunter, or someone just likes to explore, go fishing. Well, then a specialty blade like the Lutz Skinner, which is set up to be a game processing tool. This is not a bushcraft knife. And this strange shape is just fantastic for processing meat, processing wild game, cleaning fish, taking fur off of animals. This is a specialty knife and would serve perfectly if that was what your focus is. So my recommendation is always try different designs. Find what you need, because I am here to tell you guys, I have tried a boatload of them. Every new survival knife that came down the pike in the 70s and 80s, I had to have it. I had to try it. The big old Rambo knives and etc. But you learn what your needs are. And so you need to have a knife that focuses with you. Okay? Maybe you want a larger knife that, I've got a small knife for detail work, but I want a larger knife for more of the shelter building, that type of deal. Well, a larger knife like this WCSK, which is a standalone knife. It's a one tool type knife. It's bigger, it's thicker, it's stronger, and it can do the job of light chopping, splitting, that type of thing, shelter building, and etc. Much more so than my other knife, and definitely more than a precision knife like that. This would not be for shelter building, this Lutz Skinner, but this would be like a shelter building knife. I'm focusing on that. So I'd want a cutting tool that reflects what my interest is. That's what I'm trying to get to. Now, the knife, and what I recommend in the cutting tool department is some sort of small precision knife. A pocket knife, a multi-tool, whatever. That's up to you. A belt knife or some substantial knife, okay, for doing the more woodscraft jobs of carving. And I recommend everybody do one of the Morse Kachansky tri-sticks. You can find them online, and they'll show you each one of the cuts and how to create them. It teaches hand skills. It teaches knife skills, and that's what those carving jobs are doing. It's teaching you the hand-eye coordination to get skill with the blade, to have greater capability with whatever blade you choose. Use it and practice with it until you are very confident with it. You don't have to think about it so much. It doesn't feel kind of awkward. It's an extension of you. That's ultimately what I'm going for. So whatever cutting belt knife you go for, be it a specialty knife or that's what you're going to go for. And along that specialty line, how about a hook knife for spoon carving? Many people enjoy spoon carving. So that is a cutting tool. It's a specialty tool. I'm certainly not going to build shelter building with it, but it is definitely something that I can utilize for making that type of usage. I can use it for that type of job. See, because what am I doing? I'm going out here to camp out, enjoy myself, and I'm going to take it and work on that. See, I'm going to make spoons. Great, make spatulas. I'm going to carve tri-sticks. I'm going to make little things to go around the camp. Excellent. Find the knife design that works for you. Okay, we've talked about the knives. Now let's step up to the next tier, which is a cutting tool for processing wood, shelter building, that type of deal. Now, as I said, a heavier knife like this can serve as a shelter building knife. And this is on the upper end of the belt knife. Okay, it can do small work, but you got to choke up on it. And it can do the heavier work. But it's the transition. It's the jack of all trades. Okay? When we step up to the wood processing knife, I'm going to cut down trees, saplings, split wood, bust up wood, create shelters, and etc. Well, that cutting tool needs to reflect it. For many people, it's going to be an axe of some kind. It can also be a machete. Can do it. If where you're at and the type of trees and environment that you're encountering is smaller in diameter, kind of softer woods, then a machete is absolutely viable. And so works very well for that. On the other hand, if your stuff is more hardwoods or stuff, and you're going to need to pound tent stakes and stuff like that, then maybe a tomahawk, which has greater reach, or a small axe like this for crafting. Many of the spoon carvers and things use axes like this to kind of rough out the shape and take the big bulky stuff off to get down where they can shift over to the smaller knife. So a small knife and a small axe, good combo. A pocket knife, this and this. Absolutely, you're covering your C's there because you got the small detail, you got the belt work, and you've also got something for splitting, shelter building, creating firewood, the pounding, etc. That works. Some people are not going to be in the axe department, which this can also easily go up to a full-size camp axe or even a full-size felling axe, depending on what you're trying to do. Are you wanting to build a cabin in the woods? Actually fell trees and try your hand at squaring up logs? Well, you're going to need a big full-size axe, and you're going to need big cutting tools for that job. I'm wanting to build a debris shelter. Well, something lighter will do. I'm wanting to build like a small debris hut, something real small and just, well, a knife can work for that, or a saw. Now, a lot of us think about saws, but saws are absolutely a great tool to go along with the smaller knife. So a pocket knife, a small light belt knife, and then a saw. Yeah, I can process my firewood with this. I can cut off whatever I need, cut it down, bust it, whatever, with this. But I need to split this piece for whatever reason. Well, I can cut it to size with this, and then I can take this, I can whittle me a wedge and take me another big stick and pound the wedge in and split without having to use my knife. I know a lot of people like to baton. I personally don't. I don't want to abuse my blade that way. But some people do. I can make wedges and split without having to use my knife. And therefore I save my knife, you see. But the saw, how about a bigger saw than big silky saws? Man, you can do a lot of work with that. How about a folding buck saw? Fantastic. It folds up tight, rides on the pack, and when I get there now I can process large firewood. Because of what is your environment? What is your skill set? What is your environment? What is your environmental weather basically concerns? In my deep south, I can pick up firewood off the ground and break it usually by hand. So there's very little processing for that. I don't usually have to split to get to the dry center core. So I can avoid that. So a saw allowing me to cut small saplings to make shelters or to build beds, tables, and other bushcrafty. The saw is in many ways superior to an axe or a chopper because it's such a smooth cutting operation and it's less effort, so to speak, to harvest a 1 or 2 inch sapling. Just a few good hard pulls and it's off. Get to the length I want, pull, and cut it. Now I process it and become the chair legs, the table legs, the beginning of the bed, elevated bed, whatever, will come from this kind of cutting tool. Along that line is my personal favorite, and anybody that knows me is going to know this is coming. And my favorite cutting tool for a one wood processor, the chopper, and etc., is a Kukri. This is my personal first go-to. I've got many years experience with it because this particular tool gives me more than just a chopper. And I did an entire video series talking about the Kukri many years ago, but this first piece right here is almost a straight knife edge, and so I can use it as a knife up close. This first curve right here is more of the draw cut, when I'm cutting and shearing stuff off. This up here is the sweet spot. This is now acting like a hatchet and allows me to chop for firewood, shelter building, etc. The tip is kept blunt because I can turn around and dig with this for making a digging tool, dig a Dakota hole, dig whatever I need to do, I can do with that. It can be gripped like this and used as a draw knife to pull wood down. So for me, this is my personal go-to. Now that means it's the ultimate one? No. It means for me, with my skill level, with my focus on it, I've learned this device. I've watched people take a WCSK and do what I could do in my Kukri because they had the skill level, the hand strength, and etc. to do it. Better than me because of their skill level. And that end brings us to the part of what is the ultimate knife? That's like saying, what's the brightest star? Where are you standing? Everybody has their skill level and their interest. Again, that would be, if I was just doing nothing but harvesting small game and fish and eating, this would be my knife of choice right there because it's perfectly designed for that. Shelter building? No. That would not be it at all. My Blackbird is my overall choice. Now, I'm going to be carrying just one. It'll be a pocket knife in this. Or we're going to be staying and splitting, possibly doing firewood or whatever. I'm going to pick up my Kukri. And yet, I do have an axe. Because there's going to be time, this is the better choice. Your kit of the 10 C's has to be fluid. And if that's one thing that you get out of this entire series, that's what I want to pass on to you. There is no perfect answer to any of the 10 C's. There is the best answer at this time with my budget, my skill level, and my conditions to create whatever it is. So the absolute best, let's go back and talk about the sail needle, being able to sew. A teeny tiny needle is perfect for this job, and that great big one is done for that job. And they don't necessarily interchange. Well, the pocket knife is the perfect tool for this job. Yes, I could use this, but it's overkill, it's too awkward. The pocket knife is perfect. I know guys that go out and they do land nav, they do camping, etc., and all they carry is a pocket knife. They don't even carry a belt knife. They don't even bother having an axe or a saw. They've got like a Swiss Army knife on them, and that does everything. Because they'll take the saw and knot something and snap it off. They pick up firewood off the ground and break it around trees. They have no need to build shelters. They have no interest or need to do this other stuff. So a pocket knife is all they need. And they're very accomplished. They're very skilled with that pocket knife. And so when you're developing your kit, you need to be able to have a flexibility to it. So, in my humble opinion, for your 10 C's, for the cutting tool, you need some sort of small blade to do detail work. You need some sort of belt knife to do the general purpose. You need some sort of large cutting tool for shelter building, wood processing, etc. And you need some sort of saw, because those four right there are going to cover the vast majority of what you're doing in the field. If we're building a big cabin, yeah, you need an axe. Chainsaw's better, but you need an axe. Well, that's just a big cutting tool. You're the one packing your haversack to go on this. You have the perceived idea of what we're going to be doing while we're out here, so bring the tools for that job. Now, riding in my haversack, in my Blackbird, all the time, up in the top flap, is an open L. I really like using open L for certain jobs, so it rides there. I have my pocket knife on me all the time. When we're in the field, I will have my belt knife on me. The Kukri may be on me or it may be on my rucksack or on my pack somewhere. Because when I pull this out, we're doing work. See? It may also not go because I want this because I need some pounding. I've got something I need to do, and I need this cutting tool. We're going to go out and we're going to set up these such and such, and you need me to pound stakes in the ground. I can create tent stakes with this, and I can pound it in the ground. Far easier. I can with the Kukri, but far easier than with the Kukri. We're going to be going out, we're going to build a wiki up type thing. Saw's going to come out, because with that I can cut these little saplings quickly without having to swing. I don't even have to clear out a big area to be able to swing a tool. I just put it up against it and draw and cut it off, pull it out, strip the back of the stuff off of it, and continue. You adapt your 10 C's to what your perceived task and what we're doing this time is going to be covered. And this should also reflect into your, and we'll get this in cover, what your sleeping bag or your blanket or your tarp or your shelter or all of the above, your wood, your water, your food, all of it should be fluid by what we're doing, being able to load that pack up. And therefore, on the 10 C's under cutting tool, the number one thing is change. We change our cutting tools to match the perceived what we're going to be needing. That's my 2 cents. Hope you enjoyed this series, guys. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. And if you enjoyed this video and this video series, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.